Well, originally the band approached me. They had seen The Lost Thing and one other music video that I had done, and they were very interested in the way that I approached my work, and they were very interested in my animation skills. And so they actually wanted to do a music video clip that was animated using felt. And at the time I thought it was perhaps a lot of work to do the entire video animated, and so I pitched to them kind of a hybrid between live action and animation, where we actually made part of the world that the main character that he lived in was made out of felt. The one character played by Johnny McKay was going about his day-to-day life, and it was kind of almost like a Groundhog Day. And so therefore everything that was mundane and routine or the same became sort of fuzzy felt, and so we used the fuzzy felt for all of that. And it also represented things were perhaps a little bit overwhelming in his day-to-day life. And playing to the themes of the lyrics, Praying for Sunshine, he goes about this day in this somewhat bleak world where all he wants is to see the sun, to see the sunshine. So he's continually looking out the window of the bar, out the window of his work, and when he's at home, and finally at the end of the day he sees the sun for a brief moment, and the melancholic thing is then the sun sets and it's going to start all over again. I mean, I like to be a little bit interpretive of the song and the lyrics. So if I'm working with that, I think, well, why not try and tell a little story? And that's what I tried to do here, as a means for incorporating the whole felt world that we did. I sort of had included some sections with animation, so little animated cutaways of his perspective, his point of view, where I could do like looking out the window, a little animated section. So they were actually done in a traditional sense with flat planes. So we had flat planes of glass where there was layers of felt cutouts which we animated, and then it's just presented as a scene that he's seen. And some of these were affected with further visual effects, like the sun. I did sun rays coming off, but it was still essentially from a stop motion base. And then there were some objects that were animated. So there's like the telephone ringing, there's the pot plant kind of coming to life. So the pot plant is sort of meant to be representative of his feelings when he sees the sun. So it sort of comes to life and is happy. And then when the sun sets, it kind of slumps back down again. We shot it with very high-end cameras, so the screen direction and all the kind of classic elements of filmmaking were there, and it was photographed at a very slick level, but at the same time we had a very crude or rudimentary level of sort of lo-fi kind of dodginess. Everything was very block-shaped, and throughout the clip you can certainly see some lo-fi elements such as the fishing line and pulling the milk out and the toast popping up. It was kind of funny to leave that in. It was kind of cute to sort of see as though it was almost like puppetry going beyond this world that he was living in, that he was kind of stuck in this realm where it was sort of being controlled by the man or something. We had a whole series of props that we decided we were going to feature and use, so we then worked together and did these working bees where we covered everything in felt. And we did a very good job of it, that from a distance sometimes you couldn't tell that they were felt, and so we had to actually use sandpaper or like a wire brush and kind of fluff the felt up a bit more, so it sort of looked a bit more woolly and wiry. And I thought, well, how about playing with the whole lo-fi idea? How about we try and do an alternative frame rate on the live action material to try and match it to the stop motion material? So I said, well, let's try shooting at different frame rates. So we tried, I think, 18 frames a second, 12 frames a second, and eventually we settled at 8 frames a second, which is essentially you're shooting at a third of the speed that you should be. And so what I did is I got the guys to slow down all of their action to be about 3 times as slow. So when they're moving, they're doing everything really slowly like this. And then when it plays back, it's sort of the overall movements are timed correctly, but it has all these weird little wobbly imperfections in it, which ties in with the stop motion. I was pretty lucky on Praying for Sunshine because Johnny was happy to play the role of this lead character going on this journey. And then there were a variety of supporting characters which I sort of intended to put in there. And what I actually did was I got Heath Crawley to play every other character. It was meant to be that everybody looks the same, everybody is the same in this world. Heath really rose to that challenge. He was really excited about playing all these roles, and it was really fun to try and get that performance out of him. People kind of get carried away with, it's got to be this gear, it's got to be shot in this way. People used to be like, oh, it has to be shot on film. or now well, it has to be shot on this particular camera, this particular resolution. I don't really think that matters. I think the idea is more important. To me, music video is a great artistic medium where you have the ability to do so much creatively. I mean, often you have lower budgets to work with. On the other hand, you kind of get more artistic freedom. So you push new ideas, you push different things. And that's exciting. I think it's exciting for the musician as well as the filmmaker, because they get something different, and everybody's always looking for something different. Production costs are within reach of a lot of younger filmmakers or a lot of younger creative people. You know, a good video to a good song gets shared around the internet very quickly. I think that's going to be, a great factor for the rebirth or the renaissance of music video as an art form. And to have it acknowledged in an exhibition, I think, is really important. Otherwise, like on their own, they're just like little snippets of gold that are out there in the ether and people forget about them. But to sort of bring it all together and say, this is the common thread between all of these amazing pieces of video artwork, and you can experience it in one place, I think is really inspiring for anybody. I mean, for future filmmakers, but just for people who appreciate any kind of visual medium, I think it's wonderful.